Here we are, on our way to Halls Creek, a 4 days drive from my home to begin the Canning Stock route. The journey to this point, to get the Troopy complete, was the most intense vehicle build I've ever been involved with. The final week before departure went like this. I am now going to fit a raised air intake. Now you might be wondering, well, why on earth are you going to do that? It had one anyway. Why have you taken it off and why are you replacing it? Good question, and there are very good reasons for it. The Toyota standard air intake, raised to keep the air cleaner and cooler. Cleaner, at the top of it, it has a cyclonic separator, so as air moves into it, it will actually filter out and heavy particles will be thrown out. Quite a clever design and very common in trucks and other vehicles. But it is quite inefficient in terms of engine breathing at the expense of cleaner air filters. These vehicles are used in farming operations and mines, and where the priority is low maintenance, surely, not performance. Also, it's not designed for wading in deep water. It has many gaps and will leak water if you think it's not waterproof. It's not even water resistant. Water will get in and you can damage your engine. So as an off-road vehicle, I'm looking for all of these things. I'm looking for cleaner air, cooler air, and I want to be able to, and I don't like water crossings, but if I happen to come through deep water, it will potentially save my engine from major damage. That's why I'm changing it. And the additional added benefit is that the ram air will give me a little bit of extra performance. You might also be asking, are you going to risk doing it yourself? Well, given Safari Snorkel's what appear to be excellent instructions, I say, why pay somebody else to do it when I can do it myself and hopefully learn something as I go. Arg! Here I go again, cutting my vehicle to bits. I do have help. I admit it. I do need help with this kind of thing. This is not going to be easy. I leave in under a week, so the work continues. It's 10 o'clock Saturday evening, and while the rest of humanity is socializing over a few cold beers, Yaki and Yako at Quick Pitch are tirelessly working on the build. Today and tomorrow we will be installing the shower system, the electrics including battery, boiler, charge system, as well as the gull wing access doors. So yet another weekend working on the Land Cruiser. This weekend we're working on the gull wing door openings and the electrics. And in fact, I brought in a specialist to help me with the electrics and some very new technology. Right, now this is part of the build of the vehicle that I've actually been probably looking forward to the most. Thank you, Leroy. And I'm not ashamed to say this, that I get a warm, tingly feeling when I am introduced to a new battery. And in this particular case, some new technology. This is lead crystal technology. It's very new. And of course, there are so many new battery technologies out there. In the last 10 years, batteries have changed fundamentally. And the way of charging them with vehicles has changed fundamentally. I'm used to a vehicle with 100-ish amp-hour lead acid battery, which in reality means that I've got about 50, tops 60 amp-hour of actual usable power in my dual battery system. With lead crystal, and this is why I'm so excited, with lead crystal I've got this is a 70, I think it's a 70, it's a little over 70 amp-hour battery. I've got two of them, which is 140 plus amp-hour, and the amazing thing is that I can use every single one of them. And not only can I use every single one of them, the charging system that we're going to put in this vehicle means that to replenish that charger that I've used is incredibly fast, which is the major problem with traditional deep cycle lead acid batteries. This is exciting. The batteries, charger and installation is provided by 4xOverland Supply Company of Queensland, and the man in charge is Leroy Swanepoel.
So we've got some great technology that we've been working with for the last few years now, and it's sort of ready for market. We've got the charging system that's been sorted out from Red Arc, and the battery technology is lead crystal. And the beauty of lead crystal is that the batteries themselves are made up with a crystallized electrolyte and a special absorbing mat that makes them much more susceptible to vibration, heat, lower internal resistance, so they can accept charge much quicker and discharge much slower than a standard AGM. So we've got two 78 amp hour batteries, so a total of 156 amp hours.
Okay.
And charging at 40 amps.
How much of that can I actually use?
You can use the whole 156 amp hours if you need to.
Serious?
Definitely. So the great thing with lead crystal is as they discharge, they're not sulfating within that discharge and recharge stage. So very, very, very minimal sulfation, almost zero sulfation. So very long life, very, very quick charge, very slow discharge.
Okay, so now this is new technology. How well tested is it?
The technology is quite old in the sense that it was patented by the US military in the 60s. And since then, I guess the technology was shelved back then because the certain aspects of the battery weren't able to I guess, be pushed further. So I think they could only get about 11 volts or 10 volts out of the battery back then. Whereas now Better Batteries has taken that technology and been able to push it further and actually turn it into a 12 volt battery.
The electrical installation is all but complete. Beautiful work, absolutely extraordinary work actually. I mean, I thought I knew quite a lot about electrical installations, and turns out that I know the basics and I do not know anything more than that, because what has happened here and what I've learned, this is superb work and in a way pioneering new technology. This kind of battery, lead crystal, is not commonly used in overland vehicles, and for that reason the Red Arc DC to DC charger is not profiled perfectly for the lead acid charge rate. It's actually profiled for a number of different batteries, and we've set it on AGM batteries that are very similar but not the same as lead crystal. So we're very confident that it'll work well, but we know that it won't be perfect until Red Arc actually set an additional profile into their DC charger to cope with the charging requirements of lead crystal batteries. Either way, what an amazing system. I'm so very, very impressed. Not so fast. What about the solar system? I mean, solar recharging system. Looks very nice.
Yeah.
It's very thin. That must be what?
3 mil.
3 millimeters.
Yeah, so this is our range of slimline solar panels. So this is 115 watt.
Right.
It weighs 2.5 kilograms.
Right.
And on top of the panel is what's called an ETFE coating.
Yes.
Which is corrosion and stain resistant. So it will
feels slippery. Very slippery.
Yeah, it will repel dirt, dust. A light shower will just clean the panel right up.
Right.
Which is fantastic. It's exactly what you need when it's on the roof.
Right. And we're going to stick it as a permanent installation on the Hercules roof.
Correct. So nice and slim, so you're not going to get any resistance on the roof. Right. Not going to affect the tilting of the roof.
Is there a particular name to this technology? Because if I look at this, it's 115 watts. In my early days of solar power, we would be getting 60 watts. So that's a little more than half out of about the same size panel.
Yeah, so the unique feature of these panels that we use is we use SunPower E20 cells. So the cell itself was designed in the US by a company called SunPower, and they're 20% more efficient than any other cell on the market, which is very important when you're looking at slimline solar panels because heat dissipation changes. So by adhering the panel to a surface, there's not sort of much space for the heat to dissipate.
Right.
So you lose efficiency by having a cell that's 20% more efficient.
Yes.
We're ensuring that we're getting maximum capacity out of the panel.
Okay. We're going to put this on the roof. Could you please allow for me to add another one later on if I decide to?
Definitely. Yeah, we can just keep going. So on the roof of the Hercules, we can get up to 500 watts.
Complete overkill, but that's okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice little bit of technology. And
it plugs into the system as it is. It's all incorporated into the
battery
Red Arc
system,
charger.
Straight into the Red Arc BCDC 1240D, which is the new dual switching Red Arc DC to DC.
Yeah.
So everything happens automatically within the charging system. It's sort of fit and forget.
Okay. I have two separate electrical systems in the Land Cruiser. When deciding on what you're going to do with your vehicle, what electrical appliances are you going to run, like a fridge, you want to charge batteries, charge torches, radios, etc. Well, then that's the time to decide what you're going to need. And what the big question is, what is the cycle going to be? For example, when the vehicle is driving, the batteries are being charged by the alternator, and therefore the amount of current being drawn should not exceed, firstly, the output of the alternator, and secondly, the output of the charging device, whatever that happens to be. If it's the alternator, in other words, it's a direct charge, then not exceed the alternator's rating. Or if you're going DC to DC type chargers, such as I've got in this vehicle, I must not exceed the rating of that charger, because then I'll be depleting the batteries as I'm driving. Then the second cycle rate you have to think about is that when I'm now camped, what is my cycle rate? Because the engine's stopped, so I'm now just drawing current. You might hear in the background the fridge is buzzing. I'm running both a freezer on the one side and a fridge on the other, so my demand on my battery from the fridge alone is significant. This is a Snowmaster. It's a very efficient fridge, but it still draws quite a bit of current, keeping things cool. And then I've got camera batteries to run, and in the evening, lights. In this vehicle, I have two separate systems, not because I need them, but because I like to show you the difference between two fundamental ideas when it comes to onboard vehicle battery systems. What I'm now doing is assembling the change room. The change room is not a product name. The product name is still being developed, decided on, but this is a top secret development, and then I will show you that later. It's a very, very nice piece of kit for people that love overlanding and wild camping. The two gull wing access doors are now complete. One will be used for a kitchen and the other for the shower. It is 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon on the final day of the vehicle build. The work has to stop now because in 5 days' time I leave on my major expedition, and while we're getting very close to being finished, we're not finished. So the solar panel is final touches on that. And this is one of the most interesting products of all that I've put on this vehicle, is a simple shower. And you can see this little bag of tricks up there above it. I'll show you how that works. But this whole system is the answer, well, it should be, the answer to the overlander's dream that wants a quick shower at the end of a long day's driving or a long day in the bush, and wants a quick shower and not use a lot of water. And also nice and hot. I think this is exceptional. So we are close to being finished, but by the time today finishes, if we're not finished, it doesn't get done. Late Sunday, the work continues. What am I doing wasting my time talking to people like you? Work. I'm counting down the days now. It's time to return to Sinorama Joondalup to have the decals fitted. I'm back at ARB, tuning the suspension. Setting the suspension up has turned out to be one of the most difficult parts of the build because there's a lot of guesswork involved. And it's the same with anybody. You bring your vehicle into a place like this and you say, okay, I want to upgrade my suspension. And the first question they're going to ask you is, how heavy are you going to be? What are you going to put in the back? That's where the guesswork comes in. With this particular build, well, there was a lot of guesswork because we didn't even know the weight of the draw systems. We could guess, but we didn't know it. The chaps at ARB, I think, were quite conservative and expected us to be heavier than we ended up being, and they specified the 600 kilogram constant springs at the back, and it's turned out, and I suspected as much, they've turned out to be too hard. And the challenge is this, it would be fine leaving it as it is. But the trouble is the shock absorbers, unless I'm very heavy, unless the vehicle is really heavily loaded, the shock absorbers are working at the end of their travel, close to the end. Ideally, with the four-wheel drive vehicles, where you've got articulation, you've got yumps, you've got lots of undulating terrain, ideally it should be operating in the middle, not at the one end or the other. And we weren't there. We were definitely at the extended end. So to get the vehicle to be even slightly comfortable, we had to fill up everything. In other words, travel fully loaded all of the time to get any level of comfort. That wasn't acceptable to me. Now what's going to happen is we're taking out a leaf and putting in what is exact equivalent of the constant 400 kilogram rear springs, and also the front set of springs. They're shorter, same spring rate, so they can carry the same load, just with a lower ride height. The trouble is now with 400s that we might actually be too light for the load when really, really heavy, but very, very nice when we're mid-range in the load. So somewhere there's going to be a compromise, and there's a bit of guesswork taking place here yet again, because once the vehicle is fully loaded, I still don't know the exact weight, and I also don't know how it's going to ride. It might ride beautifully, but be too light for the load. I don't know. But I'm taking a gamble here, and my experience says to me the 600s are too heavy even for a full load, and far too heavy for a lightly loaded vehicle. So here, making the change, and this, what we do now, we'll be taking on our canning stock expedition. Is that all that's all the weight? That's all the weight.
Settled, so right now everything's still kind of tensioned up.
Yes. That's perfect actually. It's still slightly high at the back, which is exactly what I was hoping for. Although it is still under tension, so it hasn't settled. T-minus 3 days. As far as I'm concerned, phase 1 of my troop carrier build is complete, and it's time to decide what of my camping equipment will go in the back. Some of this stuff I haven't used in over 4 years. Our canning stock route expedition videos will be first released to our Patreon supporters beginning in September. Find out how you can be a supporter of our videos on Patreon. Click the button on your device now.